Muna da ƙasar, muna da komai. Ai in gwamnati za ta taimaka mana, ai ba abin da zai fi komai ma daɗi da taimaka jama'a irin dabinan nan. Dabino ba karamar dukiya ba ce. Da gaske zai yaƙi talauci ba ƙanƙanin talauci.
Date palm plantation. As the world is grappling with devastation of climate change effects, especially on food security, there has been a growing concern on how to combat the effects and find more sources of food in decades to come. The researchers on how to improve food production and encouraging to cultivate plants that will add more sources of food is paramount here, where the effects of climate change have been witnessed. This is why we are going to find out more about the breakthrough research conducted by the Center for Dryland Agriculture by University Kano, CDA, that will have enhanced food production.
Muna fuskantar matsaloli da yawa akan harkar noman dabino. Na farko yanzu dabinan da muke amfana su in ka kule su za ka ga yawancin su tsofaffi ne. Na gado ne tun iyaye da kakanni muka zo muka amfane su kamar yadda muke faɗa dabino yakan yi shekara 100 sama 70-80 yakan yi fiye ma da haka.
An fi fatanmu ko da yaushe addu'a muke Allah ya kawo yanayin da a ce za mu samu hukuma ta tallafa mana ta yadda za mu yi abun a ilimance ba kamar yadda muke na gargajiya ba. Idan muka san yadda za a yi abun a ilimance to ai ni noman dawa ma ba zan ba. Ko duk wani noma ni ba zan ba dabino ba.
It is all about date palm.
Sai ka shuka shi lokaci guda ka je ka gewaya sai ka ganshi in iya karami sai ka gara ta taushe shi ko zago din ya cinye shi daga ƙasa shikenan sai dai ka ga ya bushe. Bushewar wannan abin yakan sa mutane wani in yace zai shuka din ma sai ka ji ana kai su wani ma da suka shuka ba ga hinan bane duk zago ya kar musu dibinan da makamantansu to na abun ma yana ɗaya daga cikin yana taka rawa wajen matsala ɗaya daga ciki irin ta dibino da muke fama da ita.
Date palm farming is lucrative, but often at times the farmers face challenges of planting male plants that hardly bear fruits. They encounter this because they can't identify the male and female plant in early stage of cultivation. Often they realized after they've spent 4 to 5 years that the plants are largely male, that they can't bear fruits. The traditional way of identifying male and female plant is after the date palm began flowering for fruits. Then the farmers know exactly the number of males and females, which at times appears to be disastrous.
Wannan shine dibinan da na shuka shi. Shekara 8 kenan ina renansa, amma rahin sa ya hudo namiji. Shikenan muka yi asararsa, dan yanzu ma na ba da umarnin a sare shi ba yi da amfani.
There is an increase in demand for the fruit in northern and southern parts of the country, meaning the market is ripe, but due to fear of unknown in its cultivation, most of the farmers were discouraged to go into the date palm plantation. Largely, the date palm we consume in Nigeria had to be imported, which runs into billions of naira every year. The need for growing date palm is paramount. The weather and soil are conducive here that the farmers can harvest twice in a year.
Idan dibino ɗayan Allah ya bar shi ya raya shi, izamana ya huda ya haihu har sau biyu ke haihuwa a shekara ɗaya. Yakan yi na rani shine bushashe. Yakan yi na cikin damuna wanda mu a Hausar mu nan muke ce masa siki. Da damuna yawanci ya fi zuwa daman shi baya bushewa saboda yanayi na ruwa. Iya nuna ɗanye ne sai dai iya nuna in ya ja ya nuna a yanke shi a fita da shi kasuwa.
So much worries of the date farm farmers informed their decision to reach out to the Center for Dryland Agriculture by University Kano for assistance on how to identify the male and female plant before they spend much on the plant. The Center for Dryland Agriculture by University Kano swung into action and had succeeded in identifying the male and female plant of the date palm. This brought a succor to the teeming date palm farmers in sub-Saharan Africa. This is the reason why we have come to the CDA in Bayero University, Kano, to find out how is it really interesting to separate sexes plant before planting the seedlings, and how was the research carried out. In recent years, the Center for Dryland Agriculture at Bayero University, in one of its breakthrough researches, has identified the male and female sexes of date palm. This brings a succor to the teeming date palm farmers across sub-Saharan Africa. The director of the Center for Dryland Agriculture, Professor Jibril Mohammed Jibril, told us why they have initiated research on the date palm sexes identification.
Date palm is one of the plants that has the male and the female as separate plants. So the male flower and the female flower do not come on the same plant. They come on two different plants. So unfortunately, if you don't know, you may grow majority male plants on your farm, and after some years you realize they are not bearing fruits. In fact, a couple of years back, a group of farmers from Jigawa came to this office to narrate their experiences. One of them said he has a large plantation of date palm, which he tended for almost 4 or 5 years before realizing that more than half were male, and he had to cut them off and leave a few. So that made me to call our researchers in biotechnology, molecular biology, tissue culture, and so on, to think of how to address that problem. So eventually they used molecular biology techniques to identify the markers for male sex. And based on that, now at the early stage, 2-3 leaf stage of the plant, we can do DNA extraction and identify whether it is male or female at that stage. And that will reduce the risk and provide certainty when a farmer plants date palm.
The research, which involves using DNA of the plant, has a great impact on date palm plantation in Nigeria and other countries in dryland areas. We were told that the research was conducted at the Molecular Biology Laboratory at the CDA. This is the Molecular Biology Laboratory where the research for identification of male and female plants of date palm was carried out. We are going inside to find out how is it really like to identify the male and female plants of the date palm, and also meeting with the researchers who carried out this research. We're going in. Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Thank Here we are at the molecular biology, where the research for identification of male and female plants of date palm was carried out here. And I am together with one of the leading researchers who conducted this research here. Please, sir, could you introduce yourself?
Oh, thank you very much for having me. My name is Dr. Kabir Mustafa Umar, and I am the Deputy Director of Research of the Center for Dryland Agriculture. And I also happen to be one of the leading researchers that carried out sex identification in date palm.
You carried this research here in this laboratory. Could you tell us more about the processes you followed in conducting that research?
We actually leveraged on some of the experience that we have had together with some of my colleagues from Department of Plant Biology. All of us have some skills in molecular biology. So leveraging on one of us that has worked on 3 plants, we decided to sit down after a challenge was given to us by a group of farmers that are called Professional Farmers Association that came from Kano and Jigawa. So we sat down and we developed some specific primers that are associated with sex identification. So using those primers, we sent the primers for synthesis at a company, and upon getting the primers, we extracted DNA, and using conventional polymerase chain reaction, we were able to come up with specific markers that are associated with sex in date palm. So it's a kind of a general molecular biology process that involves extraction of DNA using a variety of buffers, and similarly then centrifugation and other processes that involve the purification of DNA are done. So after the purification, we now set up a polymerase chain reaction with those specific primers. And we were lucky that both known plants that are male and female showed differences in terms of the bands that are being obtained after gel electrophoresis. So with that, we were able to come up with a conclusion that we can easily differentiate between male and female plants in date palm.
The CDA is lucky to have well-equipped laboratories that can attend to the challenges of the dryland areas. Among the laboratories is the Molecular Biology Laboratory.
You see, when we say a marker, we are not talking about a general purpose marker, but we are talking about a sequence of DNA that is being prominent only in a specific sex of the plant. So the primers that we were able to get were only being present in either the male, and they are absent in the female. So it's just like saying between two group of individuals, something, a striking difference. That striking difference is called the marker. So that striking difference between the two plants is what we call as a marker, and is based on the sequence of the DNA, because in science, any character that you see that is present in an individual is due to the sum total of the genetic material that it has. So certain characters, of course, that you see even in humans and also in plants are due to a specific gene, and that gene is made up of deoxyribonucleic acids. And those physical differences that you are seeing are associated with the genes that are inherent in that organism.
Then please, could you take us to where you get that identification using the marker on your computer or on your machine?
Okay.
It is quite very amazing going around to know how much about date palm identification of plant.
As I was explaining earlier, the first thing we do is to extract the DNA and then use some specific primers to make copies of the region that are called markers, which are specific for the sex of the plant. So we have extracted the DNA, amplified, we have done the electrophoresis. Now the result of the electrophoresis is viewed in this computer. And this is the electrophoregram of the entire process. This is the end result where we make conclusions whether the plant is a male or a female.
These will go a long way in more plantation of dates in Nigeria and beyond. Moreover, in near future, the date palm farming is going to be more attractive, profitable, and economical. After the determination of the plant, the CDA now grows the seedlings and ready for plantation. We have gone to the CDA farms and see how the date palm seedlings looks like after plant identification. Date palm has a long history in North African countries of Algeria, Egypt, Libya, Morocco, and Tunisia. But in Nigeria's West African state also cultivates the fruits, especially in northern region, whose potentiality of harvesting twice in a year.
In northern Nigeria, date palm is a very, very important fruit, and we import date palm in billions of naira every year. It has become now even a cultural fruit. During weddings and naming ceremonies, date palm is shared in place of kola nut. So it's a very important crop, and the tree, once it matures, can produce a lot of fruits and provide a lot of income to farmers.
The government of Jigawa State has contracted the CDA to produce the date palm seedlings after the new technology of identification of the date palm plant. This is in recognition of the contribution of the CDA to encourage cultivation of one of the sweetest fruits in the world. The fruit has been a staple food and the chief of wealth in the irrigable deserts of North Africa and Middle East. With this discovery of the identification of plant, it will soon be another source of wealth and food in particularly northern Nigeria and beyond. We deem it necessary to link up with the farmers that have benefited from this technology. Hence, we prepare to go to Dutse, the capital of Jigawa State, the major producer of date palm in northern Nigeria. We are on the way going to Dutse in Jigawa, northwestern state, the hub for planting date palm in northern Nigeria, to meet with the farmers who benefited from the CDA research. The journey is about 133 kilometers away from the ancient city of Kano, one of the most densely populated cities in Nigeria.
Here we are in one of the date palm plantations in northwestern state of Jigawa, where you can see hundreds of trees planted here. It is very lucrative, but at times faces challenges of identifying male and female sexes. These go a long way in reducing the effects of climate change through food production and poverty fighting.
We have this fear that we nurture some of the seedlings and we don't realize maybe it's a male seedling till when it is too late, and some of the people maybe get frustrated and maybe they lack interest on the dates. Alhamdulillah, there was a research, and the research is a continuous one, and between this center you mentioned, CDC, and the Bayero University Kano, and they produce quite a number of seedlings through tissue culture process, which all the seedlings they produce, to our belief, are the female seedlings of the dates. Late last year, at the onset of the rainy season, His Royal Highness late Emir of Dutse ensured that all these seedlings goes to the nooks and crannies, not only of this emirate but to the state in general, so that at least people will have the benefit of having these seedlings. Like I said, it has quite a lot of economic and spiritual benefit.
The date palm farmers told us the difficulties and uncertainties they passed through for decades. Sometimes it is all too much for them, thinking to stop cultivating the date palm despite its potentials.
Ya da kusar da mu saboda mutane da dama waɗansu saboda mu yawanci muna da yanzu saboda haka sakamakon zaka kai ta shan wahala da ƙarshe kuma ka shuka fata bai ci ba, to kawai shikenan kawai ka ji ka kura. Wani ma daban ya ce kai wani ma haka ya sha wahalan nan ya shuka yayi kwai shekara da shekaru bai ba, saboda haka ba zan ba. Isa ma duk muka samu raguwar sha'awa ma na shuka shi.
Abin zan ce da garin nan kaga manomi dai in kaka ta yi abin da yake gadara da shi gyada auduga, to mu anan ba haka bane. Mu anan kakan dibino in ya zo ya fi kakan auduga, ya fi kakan gyada yawan samun kuɗi. Domin wani in ka ga kuɗin zai samu in ka ji kuɗin zai samu za ka yi mamaki. Kuma ko bukata ce ko aure ko wani abu sai a ce to a bari dai Allah ya kai mu lokacin dibino in ya zo, to kaga sa bada kuɗi ne ko to an fi waraka. Kaga dai damuna ga shinkafa ga duk wannan ba ta yi abin nan ba. Wannan dibinan gindi ɗaya akwai wanda za a samu na 50,000, 70,000 a yanzu fa da ike abu ya zama zamani. Tun haka ma.
With the recent development of the date palm plant identification, the farmers are hopeful and encouraged to go on with the cultivation even more than double.
Har aka ce gwamnati ta taimaka mana da irin wannan sabbin irirrika, ai mu alhamdulillah za mu dawo gida mu zauna in Allah da mu ci gaba da noman dibino fiye ma da dukkanin wani noma da muke.
Date palm is medicinal and its parts are used in different functions. For example, its trunk furnishes timber. The midribs of the leaves supply material for crates and furniture. The leaflets for basketry. The leaf bases for fuel. The fruit stalks for rope and fuel. The fiber for cordage and packing material. And the seeds are sometimes ground and used as stock feed.
Kudaden da ake samu da dabino, in Allah da mun tabbatar in har aka ce yau ka kai da gindin dibinan da ka shuka shi ka mallake shi ya kai gindi 20 zuwa 30, to na tabbatar ba kai ba wani ma kuma gashi shi babbar abar moriyarsa ma in ka shuka shi wai ba iya kai kanka ba, ƴaƴanka jikaninka ma sai su zo su amfane shi ko bayan ka rasu.
The beauty of the date palm plantation is also reducing the effects of the climate change. It is indeed a source of food that could be relied heavily when cultivated in mass quantity. It also reduces poverty within the region of its plantation. There has been a growing concern globally on what Africans will eat in the next 30 years due to the predicted devastation of climate change effects, the washing away of farmlands by the floods, the change of rain pattern that will result in shortage of farm produce, possible famine, all these due to global warming. The date palm plantation, if encouraged in northern Nigeria, will have reduced these traits of climate change in the region. No doubt that the identification of the date palm plant has in a way encouraged date farmers to redouble the production and get more profits, fight poverty and shortage of food. It is evident that the CDA has been responding to the challenges and needs of dryland regions through demand-driven research, contributing to the food security and improved livelihoods in sub-Saharan Africa.